Catch you up on some of the notable analyst calls today so far, starting with computer chip giant NVIDIA, which is up roughly 1.5% right now, over 1.4 million shares of trading volume so far. It's getting some help from teams over at Loop Capital Markets and Piper Sandler. Each are upping their target prices on the world's most valuable semiconductor company. Loop goes up to $175. It was $120. Piper to $140. It was $120. They both reiterate their buy equivalent ratings. They're citing optimism into quarterly earnings and higher expectations for NVIDIA's next-gen AI-focused chips. Citigroup, by the way, also launched a positive catalyst watch in NVIDIA heading into earnings, so getting some tailwind there.
Take a look at NVIDIA. This is right at the center of that entire trade. It kind of pulled back to its 50-day moving average. That's where it sort of sat at the close on Friday, and it looks like it's going to bump from here. You actually have the street out there raising price targets and pounding the table, saying it's a buying opportunity. So we'll see if that dictates a lot of the action in the NASDAQ and S&P today, guys.
Boy, the defenses of NVIDIA come out. NVIDIA's been the big worry. The stock peaked, it's come back down. Really bad chart. Well, this morning we've got Loop coming out and saying 120 goes to 175. We have Reuters saying there's a new flagship AI chip that actually works in China, won't be prosecuted necessarily or pulled off by this administration. We got Piper Sandler raising price target and talking about material upside. So, you know, when you see material upside in Loop Capital, material upside in Piper, what you say to yourself is, man, are they ever trying to make this work? Blackwell sold out. I mean, all these things are just the kind of thing you get when you have analysts saying, we have to get this puppy up because this is the key tech name. All I come out and say is that, again, a Harris presidency is much more benign for Silicon Valley than a Trump presidency. Do you think that they really would be able to come up with a Chinese chip that Trump would approve of? You kidding me? But Jim Raimondo's been okay with a certain scaled-down Chinese chip. Commerce Secretary.
Meanwhile, you mentioned Piper and Loop City, positive capital.
Oh, my city, but the big time positive, like the most positive. And they are, by the way, because I've been in touch with NVIDIA, this is the fireside chat. Sit down with Jensen Huang and Mark Zuckerberg at a graphics conference on the 29th. Remember, I know people laugh at me on this Zuckerberg, on this, the Luxottica lenses, but this thing sold out. And I know that a $5 billion investment means nothing because you're dealing with the mega caps. But you got to remember that this was incredible that Zuckerberg sits down with NVIDIA. When Jensen used to say, listen, he's for combat, I'm free. He used to say, he's for combat, I come in peace. I'm in love, and he's, anger, all that stuff. Well, they are together. And I think it's fantastic for both of them. But don't forget, what matters is who do you think is going to be in the White House?
And we'll talk more about the SMH. It's been a rough few days.
Easy come, easy go. It's up huge.
All right, let's talk about NVIDIA. Last Thursday, I told you that I was seeing conflicting signals in NVIDIA stock in the short term, and I thought we would likely have choppy price action within a narrow range until market participants could reach some sort of consensus on where we go from here. There are so many things that market participants are still digesting. Trump's recent comments on Taiwan, Biden's export controls, TSMC's earnings last week, and now questions about who will be the official Democrat presidential nominee. All of these things are weighing on market participants' minds right now, and I'll be honest, I am still seeing conflicting signals in NVIDIA's short-term price action. So let's quickly look at the charts and let me briefly share with you what I'm seeing. So we had a break of trend to the downside on the 4-hour time frame last Tuesday. Back then we had a demand zone not far below the trend line, and I told you I expected price to move into that demand zone if we got a breakout to the downside. That happened the very next day on Wednesday of last week, and then shortly thereafter NVIDIA broke through that demand zone to the downside while simultaneously forming a new supply zone on smaller time frames. All of this was short-term bearish. Then last Thursday, I told you I was seeing conflicting signals in NVIDIA's short-term price action. Things were looking bearish at the time, but we also got this large bottom wick on the 4-hour timeline, indicating that there are indeed still buyers present in the market. And that brings us to today. Earlier today, we broke above this resistance trend line and above the supply zone that formed last Wednesday, which are both bullish. But then here's where things get tricky. At the time of this recording, we have a large top wick on the 4-hour time frame, and price has moved back below that supply zone. I'm going to say that this supply zone is now null and void since we did break above it with decent volume earlier today. But the fact that price quickly wicked out and moved back toward the trend line is somewhat concerning. And I'll switch over to the 1-hour time frame briefly so you can see this better. We moved higher shortly after the open, but then sold off right back down to the trend line. Perhaps it's just a retest of the trend line before moving higher. Or perhaps this entire breakout is just a fake out. We don't know at the moment, and we will have to wait and see. Time will tell. We did bounce off of the 50-day moving average on the daily time frame, which is usually a very strong indicator of a reversal, so I do want to mention that as well. Simply put, I'm seeing conflicting signals on the charts for the short term. Okay, so we've looked at the charts. Now let's talk about what's going on right now with NVIDIA and semiconductors as a whole. Last week, we got two bearish pieces of news for semiconductors. First, Bloomberg reported that former President Trump was questioning whether the U.S. should even defend Taiwan, saying that Taiwan took the United States chip business and that Taiwan should pay the U.S. for protection. Keep in mind that Taiwan manufactures about 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Additionally, the Biden administration was reportedly considering export controls that would make it more difficult for China to get chips. Both of these were bearish news for semiconductors. And then this weekend, we got news that Biden will not be running in the 2024 election. He endorsed Vice President Harris, but keep in mind, she is not yet the official nominee. And I think that is going to cause quite a bit of uncertainty in markets until we have a clear nominee from both parties. For those of you who don't know, I am politically independent. I do not make decisions based on party affiliation. With that being said, I was thinking to myself this past weekend, what is the biggest challenge for NVIDIA and semiconductors in the near future? And without a doubt, it is the upcoming election and geopolitics regarding China and Taiwan. This is by far the most important issue to consider right now when it comes to NVIDIA. NVIDIA designs chips, but then they rely on other companies, mainly Taiwan Semiconductor, to actually manufacture those chips. With this in mind, I think Trump's recent comments about Taiwan really spooked the market last week because it introduced a risk that many market participants were not expecting. Whether or not you agree with Trump, it is going to be very important to consider what he says about Taiwan and semiconductors between now and the election in November, because the market will most likely react to whatever he says, whether it be bullish or bearish for semiconductors. With all of that said, here is a brief summary of NVIDIA right now. I'm seeing conflicting short-term signals in NVIDIA on the charts, and I think market participants have yet to reach consensus as to where we go from here. They are still digesting Trump's Taiwan comments. They are uncertain about who the Democrat presidential nominee will be. They are still digesting Taiwan Semiconductor's earnings and guidance from last week. And they are seeing conflicting technical signals on the charts. So for now, personally, I'm watching from the sidelines when it comes to NVIDIA. I would rather be patient and get more clarity on the situation before moving forward. As I've said before, I would consider adding NVIDIA in the range of $98 per share and $112 per share, and the closer to 98 the better. Will we see a dip like that? I don't know. Time will tell. In the meantime, we need to be paying attention to what's going on with the election and geopolitics regarding China and Taiwan, because both of these things will have major impacts on NVIDIA's short-term price action. With all of that being said, I hope your week is off to a great start, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.